food groups that build all of nature. And if we make a mark like this, and nothing lives alone, and I'm going to put a D in that quarter, and that's for the digestion of the plants. Plants are carnivorous. Plants make lots of sugars that they make from sunlight and atmospheric components, and they use those sugars for many purposes, but one of the purposes is they, on an average, pump about half of all of the sugars that they make into the soil to stimulate the soil biology. And that soil biology has bodily wastes that are acidic, and those organic acids are exchanged, I'm going to put an R here, for the minerals of the rock, and the rock is dissolved and digested by the minerals, by the acids of the soil digestive forces. And then over here in this quarter, we have an A for all the elements that come out of the atmosphere. There we have water, which is two gases that have come together to form the electrolyte that allows motion and everything to transpire. We have carbon, and we have nitrogen. And here we have the final quarter is L for light, sunlight energy. And it's not just sunlight energy, it's all the cosmic energies. And we don't know very much about them, but in developing a natural, healthy, natural process system, what you do is you look at your cropping system and observe the past in the plant, the old leaves and the present and the future, and then you can imagine the future. If you're grounded in history of the growth of the plant through utilization of your common senses, not just your sight, but your taste, how it tastes and how it feels on the tongue and how it feels in your fingers, and you use your sight to observe the posture, the texture, the color, the form, the symmetry of the plant, and you use your nose to smell it, all of those things, and you pay attention to the organism. And if you use manure in your garden, manure is pretty much an airside food. It doesn't have very many minerals in it. It has digestion in it, but it's the digestion, the biology not of the mountain, it's the biology of the cow or the chicken or whatever it came from. And it has some stored sunlight in it, energy in it, because the animal ate it in order to get that stored sunlight energy. But there's still a residual amount of stored sunlight energy, and if you use a lot of, see, the plant wants to grow and fill out and become full and radially balanced. Excuse me, if we put a seed in the middle of this, it sprouts up and it gets a little bit of sunlight, and that harvests some energy, and it breathes in a little bit more air, carbon mostly, making a new cell, bigger leaf, and that allows it to have a deeper root and have more interface with its digestive interfaces and absorb more minerals, and it's going to grow balanced and radial and very layer upon layer. But if we imbalance it, like we put a bunch of manure on it, then that manure is acidic, so it leaches out the precious minerals from the soil, and it brings way too much nitrogen into the plant, and so we get a fat plant with hollowness on the rock side, fat with holes, and boom, bugs are going to come in and put it out of its misery. If you have bugs, your bug population is most intimately an important indicators of plant health. And if you have a plethora of bugs that are eating on not just the old parts of the plant, because that's what bugs are about, is cleaning and renewing. They're incredibly important agents of cooperation with the plants. We wouldn't have plants if we didn't have the insect population, and vice versa. And they're very, very closely related, and they eat up the old parts of the plant. But if the whole plant is so weak and sick because it has had heavy applications of some imbalancing thing like manures or commercial fertilizers or anything like this, then the bug population will move right in and eat up the whole plant. But a strong, healthy plant, you see bugs on it? Great. They're on the lower leaves, eating up the old yellowed leaves, a few little body parts, old roots. Have at it, boys and girls. But if you see the massing on the reproductivity, and you know you have a sick, weak plant, and that sick, weak plant doesn't have physical completeness unto itself, and so you're not going to get physical completeness on the plate. You're not going to have refinement of flavor and color and texture and tongue feel and aroma of the finished meal. Very important to have the completeness of nature arise through the plant to the palate of humanity.
That's unbelievable. What about worms? Have you ever done vermiculture? Vermicultures
Sure. Yeah,
and
you could
worm
grow
castings?
Yeah, worm castings are pretty darn well-balanced, composty kind of stuff. You don't need very much, but you could inoculate a garden with worm castings, no problem at all. You would need maybe 1 cubic yard per acre would be very generous.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's not very much at all.
No, you don't need much. Don't need much.
Now, let me ask you this: like our soils, I mean, Florida's sand.
Uh-huh.
Everything we put
and
into
hot.
the soils, and it's very hot. It's very
And-
humid.
And it used to be cloaked with trees. It used to be a rainforest, and that rainforest protected the sand from the sunlight energy, and it dropped large quantities of organic matter on the soil floor, and so the soil became enriched with organic matter, and then our culture comes along and chopped down all of the forest and eliminated the rainforest element, and subsequently exposed the soil to the full rays of the sunlight, and plowing and cropping and everything for humanity and nothing for nature, and so the soil becomes depleted, and then you just have white sand. And so you have a big job in order to get good soil biology occurring and to maintain it, and so you need to protect that soil as much as possible. You have a small garden, and so you need very intensive planting systems so that crops that are being picked are having secondary story crops underneath them that are just coming up, and where you have time space sharing, where you have, let's say that you grow a little block of corn, and when the corn is about, you're going to cultivate it for the last time, then maybe you direct sow carrots or lettuces or something small and in need of a little bit of late summer shading or wind protection or something like that. And no, you're going to, in a small garden that's based on composts, you're going to have to generate and apply compost, but you still need that indigenous soil biology. And you still, most importantly, sand is silica. Your biggest problem is that it doesn't have any minerals in it.
Right.
And so you need that raw crushed rock, and you need that raw crushed oyster shell or some other calcium-bearing material. Otherwise, you're not going to get anything.
What are the rates on those that you put in?
Oh, about 100 pounds per acre per cropping cycle.
That's it. Now, what was the soil like before you started farming out here?
This farm is very good soil. It's valley bottom soil. My home farm, Sobra Vista, it's on a hillside of very low quality rocky soils, and it was degraded just like your Floridian soils are. It was a pedigree turkey farm, a confinement turkey farm for the 40 years before I started, and all the topsoil was washed away, and nothing would grow there except the most tenacious weeds like morning glories and star thistles and foxtails, stuff like that.
Right.
That'd be it. And they didn't grow very well either. But today, I can go out there and put a broccoli plant in, and it just grows. I don't have to do anything to it.
No. And you're amending each...
All farms with this material.
No, but I mean each growing...
Each cropping cycle.
Each cropping
it's a good
cycle.
idea. It's a good idea. It doesn't necessarily have to be every cropping cycle, but it's a good idea.
Right. And do you do soil testing?
Never.
Or do you never, huh?
No, you look at the plant, and the plant tells you what the conditions of the soil are through all of its body, its posture, its color, its smell, it's all of those things I talked about. That's your test. It's your sensory capacities.
Wow.
You get a well-grown zucchini, and you take it into the kitchen, and you slice it up, and you throw it into the saucepan with little olive oil in it, and its green becomes greener. You take a water body zucchini, one that's been grown with high nitrogen manures or something, and it goes mushy and turns gray. Well, good food is few and far between, unfortunately, and in order for the plant to have physical completeness, it has to come from an environment that gives it the opportunity for physical completeness, a life of choice. That's why this is natural process agriculture, and that's why those raw rock ingredients and the broad-scale soil biology are so critical to allow the plant, bring everything the planet has into play and into opportunity of consumption by the plant and its allies, and allow it to have a life of choice and achieve its own completeness.